And people keep saying Texas is so incredibly close. Is it, though? We're going to talk to our first guest here, Congressman Chip Roy of the Republic of Texas. He's down there in Hill Country. And he's, obviously travels around the state, too. And he can see it and he probably hears from more people than I do as to what kind of, first off, Congressman, it's good to be with you. Welcome to the show. But just tell me a little bit what you hear from Texas voters as to how they would fare under a Biden administration energy edict like this. I mean, I shudder to think what would happen to energy and also what would happen to Texas jobs if something like that were to go through and you had a Biden administration.
Well, Dana, thanks for having me on the show as always. Thanks for being a voice for the forgotten men and women of America who want their government out of the way of their life so they can prosper and pass down a better republic to their kids and grandkids. Thank you for that. And that's exactly the question you're asking. Look, Texans, I can tell you where most Texans are coming from on this, which is strong concerns, absolute abject, opposition to what they're hearing out of let's just call it what it is, a Harris-Biden administration, what that would be, with respect to attacking our energy industry, attacking fracking. The very thing, by the way, that, is responsible for jobs in Texas and for strong economic growth for our whole country, the energy independence so that we're not dependent on the Middle East, pushing back on China, all these positive things. And, oh, by the way, ironically, driving down CO2 levels, clean burning natural gas. The left is so in the pocket of the radical New Green Deal agenda and AOC and the leftists and Bernie Sanders. And Joe Biden, he's not leading anything. He's being flopped around like a puppet. And Texans know this. They see it. The real question in Texas 21, where I represent, and the whole state, frankly, is whether Texans who love Texas, whether they grew up here or moved here because they love freedom, versus your Austinites, your San Francisco liberals who have found a little pocket, as Rick Perry, your friend and mine, used to call it the blueberry in the tomato soup, whether Austin is going to represent Texas or whether Texans are going to represent Texas. Joe Biden does not represent Texas. We're going to stand up on that wall just like they did in 1836 and hold the line for America. That's what we're out campaigning to do.
Yeah, and holding that line indeed. I know that there's been a lot of cash pouring into the state. A lot of outside money as well. I read a story the other day where Michael Bloomberg is dumping a lot of money in Texas. Actually, I think I retweeted. I think I tweeted it this morning. He's dumping millions of dollars in Texas because he thinks that he can move the needle. This is New York's own stop and frisk Mike Bloomberg, who wants to disarm everyone. And this is the guy who regulated from everything from the size of your drinks to whether or not you could purchase loose cigarettes in New York, which fared very well for them, I'm sure. But he's spending millions of dollars on TV ads for Biden and other Democrats running in Texas. I mean, I don't think Texans want to have that New York kind of nanny statism standard of living.
No, you're exactly right. And let's think about where is Michael Bloomberg spending that $2.5 million. It's on a statewide race for the Texas Railroad Commission, which for all of your listeners out there doesn't have much to do with railroads. It has everything in the world to do with energy. It has everything in the world to do with oil and gas. Michael Bloomberg knows this. They are trying to go after Texas because if they can get Texas, then they can go after the energy industry. They can go down the entire government-run way of doing things to push their radical agenda, undermining our independence, our freedom, and the ability of Americans to govern our own lives and, oh, by the way, make people's lives better. They know this. That's why they're doing it. So Bloomberg's dumped his money in. I've got literally $15 million of ads running against me in Texas 21 alone. We're holding our own. We've got, about 8 or 9 million running. We're raising money, and the Club for Growth supporting us, and Gun Owners of America, and, there's others out there doing their campaigning. But bottom line is the Democrats are feeling it. They believe they can attack Texas. And every listener out there, if you're a Texas voter and you're a Republican, you have to vote. Let me just tell you, you have to vote. You're the only thing standing between America going the way of a socialized welfare state of Europe. And because Texas is holding that line, we need your votes. You're the only thing standing in the way of Austin telling, Kerrville and Comfort and Bernie and Blanco and Johnson City and all the great parts of the district I represent, Austin telling them what to do. So if you're a Republican, go vote. We need it.
Yeah, we need definitely. And Texas always, I just remember in 2016, there was particularly low Republican voter turnout, and it wasn't that much higher going into midterm. And I keep hearing stories of, record high turnout for the state of Texas, which could, kind of flip the precedent on its head there. Are you going into this? Because I know your district has been considered toss-up, which is insane to me. And yours isn't the only one that has been. I know it was a tough race for you previously, but there have been historically Republican districts, and whether it's due to redistricting or I realize you have these battleground-esque operations that are everywhere from Texas to Colorado to Missouri and elsewhere in Florida. But I'm asking you if you're optimistic going into Election Day. What you think of early voting and the totals and Republican enthusiasm, because you're out there every day talking to people, whereas I'm not out there every day, but I talk to people through email, but you see them, you see the crowds, you know what the feeling's like. What is it like?
Well, we had a great event last week with Governor Rick Perry, with Brian Birdwell, who represents up closer to your neck of the woods, Dana, up through in south of Fort Worth, who, for your listeners out there, Brian Birdwell is maybe the man closest to where the plane impacted the Pentagon who survived. He was burned head to toe. He's a great American. Rick Perry, you all know. Marcus Luttrell was there. My colleague Mark Green from Tennessee, who was one of the team members who captured Saddam Hussein. Why am I telling you all this? Because we had a great veterans rally in San Antonio and several hundred people there. And people are fired up to defend this country, fired up to show up and vote. And they're all going to do it. Look, I don't know the answer to your question. What we know is we have unprecedented numbers. We have a whole lot of people who are turning out against the president, and these are radical leftists who want to remake America. We have a whole lot of patriots who are turning out in support of the president, support of freedom, support of Israel, support of our God-given rights, support of a strong economy, support of a strong border. But the problem is, we don't know the numbers, so we can't assume anything. So for Texas to continue to lead, we need everybody to show up. So my feeling is, look, I'm in the Hill Country right now. I'm calling you from Bernie, Texas.
Wow.
I'm telling you right here, they are fired up to defend America. If I go into South Austin, Texas, which I also represent, they're pretty fired up, against the president. And so we've got this dichotomy. I think the overwhelming number of Americans are with the direction of the country and where the president wants to take us. I think they're browbeaten by media that will feed nothing but negativity, browbeaten about negativity on the virus, et cetera. And so our job is to overcome that by turnout, energy, enthusiasm, and all the stuff you're doing on your show every day.
One of the issues that's come up, and we're talking with Congressman Chip Roy of the 21st Congressional District here in the Republic of Texas. One of the big issues that's being pushed right now, this is one of the biggest talking points, and it has to do with the House, has to do with Speaker Pelosi, the president, and the coronavirus relief. Tell people how many times Republicans have proposed different coronavirus relief proposals, only to have the Democrat majority refuse to engage or even consider, because it doesn't include bailouts for historically Democrat-run states that were running, in some cases like Illinois, billion-dollar deficits before this pandemic, years before it ever happened.
Well, that's a great question, right? I mean, first of all, as you know, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats have been playing politics with this virus since the beginning. They have politicized a virus. I mean, you never thought it was possible, but they've done it. And instead of us coming together as Americans, driving through this, protecting the vulnerable, making sure that we keep our economy going, like any wise society should do for the good of all, so you don't have people with cancer who aren't getting screenings, you don't have people with mental health issues, suicide rates, all of these things that we now know are occurring, we knew and could predicted would occur. Instead of that, we're playing politics with the virus, scaring people, and that's what Democrats are doing. We've been trying to put forth legislation to help folks. The PPP pill, we got that done early as part of a mega package. Then she started playing politics. Thankfully, a freshman Democrat and I joined together and produced the PPP Flexibility Act, and we got it through in June, 417-1, got it through the Senate, signed by the president, because we end-ran Pelosi. We found a way to put pressure on her to bring it to the floor. Since then, she's locked down the floor. We haven't had any ability to debate, vote, have any discussions on this. The McConnell and Republicans, the president, have put forth option after option after option to help small businesses, to help those who need it. But Pelosi keeps ratcheting up and moving the goalposts, wanting to spend billions of dollars in tax relief for rich people, sending money to California, Illinois, New York, and not help the people who actually need it. We want to get our economy going. We want to help the small businesses that form the backbone of our country. Pelosi stands in the way of that. It's purposeful, it's political, and it's downright vindictive and wrong, and we need to send her out on her ear in order to save this country for our kids and grandkids.
And for people going out to vote, too, I can't imagine anyone, especially after hearing these facts here, I can't imagine anyone thinking that it would be a smart idea to send a Pelosi rubber stamp acolyte in your place to Congress just to make this worse and to further deny Americans much needed coronavirus relief. Congressman Chip Roy from the 21st District. Congressman, it's always a pleasure. Where can people find you online?
Well, thanks, Dana. And again, thanks for what you do. And thanks for standing up for our gun rights and our freedoms. ChipRoy.com, ChipRoy.com. I need every dollar. We just bought another $350,000 of airtime to compete against Wendy Davis. Every dollar you give me right now, if you're a listener, please, ChipRoy.com. I'm putting it lead on target. We are going right after Wendy Davis with strong ads, talking about freedom, talking about what we can do to make this country better, and about how she's wrong and she is a rubber stamp for Nancy Pelosi. So thank you, Dana, and God bless all of your listeners.
Of course. Thank you so much. Congressman Chip Roy.